the common ground between feminism and what is known as the civil rights movements. Number one, the shared position that appearances are superficial and that they mean nothing. This including physical symmetry, which we call beauty, but this only when it comes to humans. Therefore, appearances only do not matter when it comes to humans. Brain symmetry, which is called intelligence, is harder to define for most, so let us leave it for now. The reduction of the argument to a few traits, such as the pigmentation of the skin or the presence of a vagina or a penis, so as to caricature or to ridicule basic empiricism, upon which all science is based, is a part of this shared methodology. This proposition, in essence, makes a mockery of aesthetics, or of sensual awareness, of our senses in general. But when it is pushed into a conceptually rational corner, forcing it to justify itself, it resorts to selective denial, where only humans are exempt, because they are supposedly too complex and cannot be bundled in with other species. Very convenient and self-flattering. Just as all Judeo-Christian born delusions are. Or what they do is they resort to the infantile argument that differences are too small to measure, in essence insinuating that any measurement too small should be ignored if someone gets hurt by the repercussions of this measurement, contradicting, I might add, the butterfly effect. Number two, the shared proposition or position that the past is inferior to the present and more so to the future. In this fallacy, linear time is presented as an upward ascent rather than one characterized by cycles and ebbs and flows. What is to come for them is best, and what is past for them is primitive. It is overcome. It is primal. It is automatically considered inferior. This is essentially a play on the Judeo-Christian paradigm where paradise is turned into a forever coming future, an imminent utopia where love and peace will reign and nobody will be unhappy or alone. But, in fact, life existence is about divergence, hierarchies, conflict, what the ancient Greeks called agon or agonas. Life is a constant war, a constant battle, even when we don't know it. It is occurring. The position that the past is dead, whereas the future is better, or at least unavoidable, is a fatalistic position, which exhibits no understanding of history. Were the Middle Ages inferior to the Golden Age of Athens? No, I don't think so. Were the Hellenic ideas dead and buried under Muslim supremacy in the Mediterranean basin and in a Europe at the time infected with Judeo-Christian mysticism, seeped in darkness? The Renaissance would say no, You cannot kill an idea, no matter how many people you slaughter or repress or manipulate or brainwash. Those who speak of the death of paternalism with the glee of a little girl given a lollipop are only displaying their total ignorance and their total emasculation. What man would be happy about such a prospect, even if it were fact? Only one that fears that he is incapable of being a real man, being as he is the product of sheltering and castrating ideologies. Such a man would only seek retribution, the vengeance of a feeble and weak mind, the feminized mind, the vengeance of a jealous child. Not only is paternalism not dead, but it reigns supreme under different guises. God is a masculine concept. The state is a masculine concept. The institution is a masculine concept. Paternalism, or a particular brand of paternalism, a nihilistic one in this case, infecting the European one with its insidious viral seduction, has adopted more modern methods for controlling the women, because it always attacks on the most vulnerable side, the women and the children. And in this group I include the men children, the homosexuals, the emasculated victims of paternalistic sheltering, who are only by name, and only by name, men. I include them in this category. This is a war like no other. It is a mimetic war. The very males selling these ideals of horror sexual activities, love for all, empathy for all, well, where the very concept of love and friendship loses all value. Those who propose all inclusivity are the very ones who adopt for themselves a selective dogma which inhibits crossbreeding, and one which is based on exclusivity and a very strict code of sexual conduct. It is those who sell this universality who, amongst their own kind, speak of an exclusive group, a chosen people. This mimetic war is between an ancient pagan paternalistic system, a polytheistic, polymorphous, masculine paternalism, and a newer one, a modern one, which has infected it by coming into contact with it, a monotheistic one, one taking on the guise of feminine coyness, projecting its power indirectly by manipulating basic human nature which it then denies relevance to. Western females were given a product, one offering them the delusion of parity with men. They grabbed onto it, as all weaklings grab onto any semblance of power when they are offered it. Those who jumped at the opportunity were the usual suspects. At first, the lesbians, the ugly, the fat, the more butch females, the ones who could not bag an alpha male, a male they thought they deserved. More females were sold on it, using the typical marketing strategies. This because most females felt repressed as they were, being forced to copulate and reproduce with males that were, by natural standards, not worth the effort See how Bernays sold cigarette smoke to the female population, using his Uncle Freud's insights. A Freud who is currently rejected as being passé, overcome, old school. Once more, because some either ignore me or have no clue what I am talking about. What females have emancipated themselves from in the West is not masculinity, but the middle men. What do I mean by middle men? I mean those men who were included into a social structure in the past. With the advent of the technology of monogamy and matrimony, which would not have been normally included. These inferior males who would not have reproduced anyhow were given a mate by repressing her natural instincts, her natural proclivities. They were made, these men, investors in the tribe, in the social system, because at the time masculine muscle and ingenuity was still necessary. The elites required as many men as possible to extend their power and to defend what power they had. The only reason females were allowed to liberate themselves from the dominion of these inferior males under the context of a family unit was because newer methods of population control were invented, making masculine attributes, at least those possessed by the bottom 70% of males, superfluous. What was really and truly liberated was female sexual choice, and that natural female guile which can manipulate and control inferior, gullible, beta males, as they do in natural settings. Females, in fact, were enslaved to the system even after their supposed emancipation. They were enslaved to the state, to the king, to the church, to the corporation, to the institution, which was now the only permitted masculine entity. They served it with the joy of a concubine giving herself to a king. This is because masculine had been abstracted, just as resource had been abstracted into money. Funny how it is these beta males, these effete men children, who now still cling onto the womanly romantic idealism of a bygone era. It is these men who are now crying about female empowerment, bitter that they were not appreciated, as they say themselves, for what they were, rather than what they could offer or what they could provide. Women in the past used to complain about how males of that time did not appreciate them for what they were, but men only wanted them for what they could offer, such as sex, a womb, a home, and a family. You can see this as not only not really a role reversal, but a uniformity. Males becoming like females. Number 3. The shared position that nurturing is more important or more relevant than nature. A nihilistic take on Locke's tabula rasa. It proposes the absurdity that human babies, not the offspring of any other species, by the way, are born clear of any genetic predispositions in the areas with social significance, such as intelligence and sex. In the latter, all discrepancies in performance had to be blamed on culture for both Negroes and females. Still, to this day, the absence of any female or Negro with a contribution comparable to a Freud, an Einstein, a Michelangelo, a Newton, a Tesla, a Feynman, a Nietzsche, a Schopenhauer, a Da Vinci, a Plato, a Heraclitus, a Confucius, a Buddha, can be blamed on male, particularly European, or what is called white, male repression. If we recognize that nature is not anything other than the sum of all previous nurturing, making the position that the immediate nurturing overpowers all previous nurturing, passed on via the genome, a game of numbers, since numbers is what these morons like, then in this case the sum of all previous nurturing is numerically, quantitatively superior to any nurturing which may occur from birth until death. But let's expose what these liberal nitwits mean by nurturing. What they mean is education or brainwashing, training, just as one nurtures a dog out of shitting on the carpet or out of jumping on the furniture. With the proper training, the organism, the child in this case, is expected to suppress and hide and deny any other drive it may have which contradicts the training's intended outcome. The idea of nurture and not nature is basically a call for social eugenicists to practice their trade under the pseudonym of psychologist or marketing executive or politician or activist or teacher or mentor or priest or do-gooder or MRI liberator or feminist. Indoctrination is what husbandry is called when dealing with the domestication of the human species. Number 4. The shared proposition of monism, that all fall under the authority of a singular idea or ideal, beneath which all are equally ignorant, weak, fallible, inferior. Through this proposition, the idea that all attributes are gifts from some divine grace is offered openly, and is mostly implied in secular humanist ideologies. All are equally sinners who must redeem themselves before God, the Almighty, male. Then this morphs into the modernistic idea that we are all equally endowed, who must then redeem themselves through servitude or utility to the institution. Here identity is derived from an external present force, a god or a state or a church, or more abstractly, an idea. It is not inherited. It is never a manifestation of the past which each and every individual carries with him or her. Identity, like value, must always be a product of the individual relating to the power that is presently in control. With this proposition, it does not matter what tribe you come from, what family you are a descendant of, what your history is. And so, it does not matter what race you belong to or what sex you belong to. Nature is a representation of a past which is always surpassed. In this modern nihilism, this insidious kind of infectious, seductive, I may call it positive nihilism. The world, as it is, as it has enabled the emergence of life, is denied. What is promised is a better world, perhaps not a childish, paradise after death, but a coming future, a perfect world for the children. Everything that evolves the inferior towards the superior is deemed evil, hurtful, painful. All that matters is servitude, service, complacency, adherence to the current, surrender to the current, to the modern. In this nihilistic hierarchy, he who denounces his or her nature is the one who can hope of enjoying the rewards bestowed upon such a good slave by a system thriving on such sheepishness. Do you understand now why the MRA rejoices at the hypothetical death of paternalism, just as feminists do, and just as Negroes do? It is not any paternalism they have in mind, but the one that made Western European man so dominant. This is a rejection of this particular paternalism and a total submission to this nihilistic, modern, imminent paternalism that has infected Europe from the East.